Thank you for joining me here today. Let me make sure I got my comments here so that everybody can comment. Thank you for tuning in to my Crystal Loves Texas podcast. Along with me today is my ever so trusted bestie, Rebecca
Hi.
Williams.
Hello, hello, hello.
And I have got two gentlemen in here with me today who are going to be the second episode of my Caring for the Community series that we're doing this month. We are chronicling people in the community, in the Houston community, that are going out on a limb and stepping up to take a stand against or to take things in hand that we know need to happen in our city. We can't be passive. We're going to need people who step forward, and regardless of what may happen, they take the lead and take charge to try to make our city a different place. And those two gentlemen with me today, I call them the game changers, and they are. Yes, they are Mr. And you've seen this guy here about once a month, once every other month, Mr. Lloyd Ford, and we've got Mr. John Branch Jr. Hello, gentlemen.
How you doing?
What's going on?
Good. And I'm going to let them first, before we get started, tell you a little bit about themselves and why they feel that they are the right people to make a change in Houston right now, especially with everything we're up against. John, we'll start with you.
Okay. I just want to say thank you for allowing me this platform.
You are welcome.
The first thing that people say when they want to do something to run for office, the first thing they say is, I'm not a politician. I don't know about you, but I get tired of hearing that. I am one.
Okay.
Let's just put it out there.
And what does that mean? Tell us what that means to you.
What that means is that, well, actually think about it. Right? Everything that we do, whether it's like what goes over the radio, FCC, politics are involved in that.
Absolutely.
If you want to get a building for your small business, zoning requirements, politics goes involved with that. For those people who are involved in churches, politics involved in that for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The issue is that sometimes there's politics involved. People have their own selfish agendas.
Yeah.
They have their own selfish things. People that get into it for the wrong reasons, to benefit themselves. My thing is, what I want to do is I want to show you how politics are supposed to work for your community.
Right.
What being a politician is supposed to be like.
Right.
Not being a politician, also being a statesman too.
Absolutely.
What that actually means. It actually means service to everyone,
Absolutely.
not just service to just your own personal self-interest.
Absolutely. Lloyd Ford.
What's going on?
We see you out there moving and shaking all the time. I'm scared to ask what you're doing now because you were constantly out there. Lloyd, tell us a little bit about, first of all, before we even get to the aspect of what's coming down the pike in November.
Right.
I want you to tell me a little bit about yourself. Are you from the Houston area? I know some people who are watching today weren't watching the last time. So tell me about why you see yourself making a change in Houston and how you got to this place.
For sure. One thing, Lloyd Ford, running for City Council District D. And yeah, I'm from Houston, 3rd Ward, went to Jackie Yates. All my life I spent in Houston. I did make a brief stint. I did get a football scholarship and went up to North Dakota. I say negative 55. I'm like, that ain't for black folks, so I have to come on back down here.
So, and where did you go to school when you came back down here?
I went to Prairie View and them.
TV produces productive people.
Yeah, we know this royalness come from.
I know. I say that all the time. If you say anything about Prairie View, let this one be at least 3 earshots away.
But no, we got into this. We've been a long time community advocates, business owners, creative group economics, the Black Store. We've been doing stuff in the community, and we realized that, to be honest, it wasn't enough. So when we talk about not having enough, not doing enough, when you know better, you do better.
Absolutely.
So that's the reason why we threw our hat into this ring. But again, before we even started this, we went up to other elected officials or other people that ran for the seat before, and people that we thought would be good, and we said, hey, we will support you.
Right.
And when they didn't want to run, we doing this out of duty and necessity.
Somebody's got to step up.
For sure.
Somebody's got to step up. And it's not always a pretty place to be, is it?
Not at all.
Absolutely not. Gentlemen, I'm gonna throw this to each one of you, but John, answer this for me first. There's an old saying that goes, we're most effective when we bloom where we're planted. one way that both of you have made great strides in pouring into the lives of younger people in the community, especially in the schools, is in that arena of education.
Sure.
Tell me about some of the ways that you've poured into young people, especially through the educational process. I know that you kind of came into it in a different way, but you chose that path. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, I chose this because actually I grew up outside of Chicago, Illinois. I grew up in Olympia Fields, Illinois.
Okay.
And I went to school. I went to Bethune-Cookman University, Daytona Beach, Florida.
We still love our HBCUs.
and I went to FAMU for grad school in Tallahassee. But my degrees are in chemistry and environmental sciences.
Okay.
And so the reason why I mentioned that was because teaching was a second career for me.
Okay.
I started out in industry at first. And one thing that we did, because I know both my parents, education was secondary for them as well, too. So my dad was an architect, mom was a polymer chemist.
Okay.
That's what had that part going on.
Okay.
But then we would complain about how things were the school stuff. And so my dad was like, okay, one of two choices. You can sit here and complain about it, or you can go in there and do something about it.
Absolutely.
And see what actually get involved with that, because I thought about growing up, like how many people that looked like me were teaching. And for a lot of my kids, actually first saw this when I first went into education, was that how many kids actually saw someone who looked like them teaching a science class?
Exactly.
Not that many.
Not at
many
all.
whatsoever. And so think about with education, now it's the fact that it's like, now it's about making the choice, as my father would say again, doing the moral obligation to help our young people. Because if we don't help pour into them, then someone else will.
Oh, absolutely.
And I don't want the bad guys pouring into our young people because we have too much of that stuff going on.
Or the system.
For sure.
Yes.
Absolutely not.
Yes. Lloyd.
Well,
I know the story, but your story,
for sure.
your story is remarkable. Tell me about how you decided through partially through pouring into young people that was going to be one of the ways that you made your difference.
Well, we always talk about how can we bring up the next generation. We always talk about how important kids are, education. Yeah. And I realize that a lot of these kids, are not exposed to a lot of stuff. Not exposed to business owners, not exposed to, and like I tell this story all the time. One of the kids that we asked them, what did you want to be when you grow up? He said, I want to be a rapper. He said, what are some of the successful steps you think you need to take to be a rapper? He said, I need to go to jail first, then I need to get out. So, he just had a wrong set. But when he found out that we own businesses in the neighborhood, you can come work at the business, you can come be an intern. That just changed his mind on ownership. He didn't think that anybody really could own it. He never known anybody that owned anything. Wow. So we just want to show them a different perspective. So, of course, at the middle school we was at, when we had all those interns from 6th to 8th graders just coming and being a part and seeing a different vision, we got a different attitude out of them. Absolutely. But like I say, when they thought I was just a sub, guess what? They treated me as such. That's right. So when they knew that the opportunity and the things that can get out of what we were doing, guess what? Their attitudes changed, their mindset changed, their demeanor towards us changed.
And you went in there as a volunteer.
As a volunteer at first, until the principal was like, hey, we'll give you a little position. You come over here every day, but I need you here from 8 to 4, which was.
You chose. To be
for sure.
Yes.
Definitely. It was definitely a choice.
You chose to be at your middle school. I'm not going to call it from 8 to 4.
Look, I'm going to say this. Look, a representative came in my store. I ain't gonna say her name, but she came in the store and I was always talking about we need more men in schools. Yes. So I said, hey, go to your principal. If she ever want more men in schools, I will be there. And she called me the next day.
Wow.
And so she was like, I can give you a little position. You want to come in and do something? I'm like, of course.
And they need to see, just like John was saying, they need to see men that look like you who are choosing to be there with them.
And the reason I said that like that was because, to be facetious, they know that already, but because it's most men do not choose to be in that setting.
Exactly.
If you look at education now, the data shows you, just not even in Texas, but across the nation, that 83% of the teaching field is dominated by women.
Of course.
Yeah. So, but I'm gonna say this though, even with dealing with the kids and dealing with stuff, it's a lot of men don't go into that space because, to be honest, it's liability. You're dealing with young ladies, you're dealing with a lot of issues, and sometimes it could not even be your issue.
right.
And something could happen.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
I've seen things happen where teachers have to write statements, and
Yes.
just by being in the area of something happening, not necessarily being involved,
you can be
with
liable. Yeah,
for sure.
And I can add to that for a second as well. When I was in the classroom too, the one thing that I represented that boyfriend that was coming up. I represented that stepdaddy that was wrong.
That's true. That's
you
true.
know, I was that father figure for some
who had never seen it in their home.
Correct.
Yeah.
But I was also that person who wasn't about nothing doing the same thing too. And then also, I hate to mention this, but I have to bring it up or whatnot. My dad was no longer with us. My father had, and of course, he loved some of these kids like they were his own kids. Matter of fact, when my father passed away in 2016, some of his own kids say, "Hey, where's Dad? He's not here anymore."
Yeah.
But then the rough part is some of these students actually falsely accused my dad of doing something. And see, stuff like that is why some don't want to go. Some don't want to go into education.
That's right.
Yes. And then the issue is when everything came out, which of course it always does. It always comes out.
The truth
that same intensity that was geared towards this. It was like a whimper on the other.
That's right.
End.
It was on the back page of the paper, basically.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's like we had relatives, we had friends, basically. And it's like one day I was actually home from college one day. And my dad was going through this stuff. That was the first time I ever saw my dad cry. Was at that moment.
Because he was there because he loved what he was doing and he believed in those kids. And to see them turn on him like that was probably very disheartening.
And watch this though, right? The one reason why the girls said something, because he was quote unquote being too hard on them. Exactly. He was giving them too much work. So they wanted to do something about it, they said.
That's amazing. And the thing is, I'm hoping that as things progress, more men will elect to be in classrooms, and we'll have more laws that are in place that protect our teachers and protect men. Amen. But Lloyd, I'm going to ask you this question first, and then I'm going to turn this to John. Gotcha. But Lloyd, I remember you telling me that in the neighborhood that you serve, where your store was located and where you are in education, that tell me this percentage again, because I know it was so mind-blowing. How many of those businesses and buildings over there are owned by the people who live in that area, the African-American people?
Oh, it's not a lot at all. And like I say, we did a 5-mile radius, of course, of our store. We only own about 19% of the businesses. We give away $1 billion. Not only do that, but we discovered over 40 dilapidated buildings in less than 2 miles just between Cullen, Scott, and MLK. So when we talking about us and the ownership, we don't own a lot of any of commercial properties and commercial things in our area.
And some are falling in.
Oh, most of them are falling in, and we don't have no ordinances of things to hold people accountable. We got to do like they did in Lamarck, and not Lamarck, but Lufkin. Okay. And what they did was they put an ordinance out where they want to spark economic development. So anybody that wasn't trying to sell, rent, or lease their building and an advocate, and it wasn't as viable to be used, we tax you. And so, don't get me wrong, Texas is a big property state, so we can't take people's property, but we definitely can make you penalize you for it being a blight in our communities. Absolutely. And guess what? It's only in our communities. You don't see that many ample of dilapidated buildings and viable used properties that can be used for businesses. So does that affect
the eminent domain laws?
Eminent domain is dealt with the government when they need your area for a right of way, some public good. Yeah. Now, if the government wanted or the city wanted, then they could use or in eminent domain, but it have to be for like a public highway. Okay, it have to be something that benefits I knew what it was, but
I didn't know how that affect like the commercial property.
Oh, they can do anything. Eminent domain.
If it's privately owned,
right now.
Yeah. John, let me ask you this.
Sure.
Now, with you, first of all, I want you to explain to all of our viewers exactly what, because we see it all the time, but a lot of people don't know exactly what is an at-large position.
Well, at-large is citywide.
Okay.
For example, my friend Lloyd Ford here is running for District D. District D is like a certain part of the city.
Exactly.
At-large means you basically have jurisdiction over all of the districts.
Okay.
It's something my friend Mike Knox calls like being a mini mayor almost. It's like basically the same kind of jurisdiction that the mayor does.
I like
Okay.
that. Mini
Okay.
mayor.
Yes.
That's the best way to describe
And when you
it.
look around,
Yeah.
so basically, when you look around, you have to have the eye to look around the entire city at things that are less than they should be.
Yes.
And have you identified certain areas that you see a lot of improvement that can be made?
Well, a few things I could definitely think of the top of my head. And of course, I've traveled to different parts of the city.
Yeah.
A few months ago, I actually was at Kashmir Gardens. I was I volunteered with this church, and we actually went ahead and picked up some areas where there was illegal dumping that was taking place.
Wow.
Yeah.
And one site,
and that's going to be North Houston.
Yeah, northeast. Yeah.
Northeast Houston.
Yeah,
okay.
Northeast Houston, yes. And then of course, there's one piece. I'll never forget this. It was right by Kashmir High School.
Okay.
So picture Kashmir High School is on one side of the street, another area on the other side of the street, and then down the street here, like in this corner, some trash was dumped in front of this like nice, a nice Asian fellow, a nice one in front of him. You know, we couldn't move the trash, not because it was too big, not because there was anything sharp inside of it, but there was a dead animal inside of it.
Oh my goodness!
Now, first I thought it was like, okay, no way, but then I got downwind and a breeze blew through it. Yeah, I smelled all of that taking place.
Wow!
And so I'm willing to bet
Yuck.
that. Yeah, I thought the same thing. And so I want to bet all over the city there is illegal dumping taking place everywhere. Matter of fact, the first time I was exposed to this stuff, I was driving through Fifth Ward.
Right.
I drove through parts of like more traditional Fifth Ward and then regentrified Fifth Ward, as they say.
Exactly. Big difference.
Yeah, very big difference. And so one of the areas that I drove through, you actually saw the trash on the alleys, like in the streets and stuff. It was like, I don't say it's kind of like driving through like a bomb shelter, but in a way you actually saw tires. You saw stuff all over. You saw areas where it's like people were just dumping, people just like driving there, dumping there, stuff like that. You know,
and people having to live in these conditions.
Well, think about the kids, for example, right? For some of our kids, I don't want our children growing up thinking that that's normal.
Exactly.
I don't want our kids growing up thinking that things like trash, things like bottles, like for example, Lloyd, this was in your district too. This gentleman named Ed Pettit. He's very well known now. Like, there's a picture of him. He was standing up to his waist, like right to here.
Absolutely, in trash.
In that pothole.
Yeah.
No, not trash. A pothole.
That's right.
A pothole.
I remember.
And I saw that. I'm like,
yeah,
whoa.
that was right over in Third Ward. Yeah.
And so what I did was I called him. I'm like, how you doing? And so we talked for a minute.
Yeah.
And then we talked about that. And he basically said, like, city services, trying to get city services out there to do something about this was ridiculous. And then third thing I think about was
unless you get the media involved.
And the sad part is it shouldn't take getting the media involved to get things done like this.
For sure.
Yeah.
You know, it shouldn't do that. And then the third thing I think off the top of my head, over down in the East End, there's been issues like trains being in parts of the city too.
Yeah.
Now here's the issue with the trains. And see, this is when my degree in environmental sciences comes. It's not the trains that's stopping on the train tracks. It's the cars that are stopping too. Because here's what happens though. If your car's running and they're stationary like that, you have that of the emissions coming from those cars.
That's right.
You have that particulate matter. You have the main ones, 2.5 and 10 microns. 2.5 is the worst ones there are. If you have any kind of respiratory illnesses like asthma and stuff like that, that PM will enter there and will cause all kind of health problems, like irritation, asthma, you name it. That stuff can cause it. So it's like, I mean, these are things I saw them in the top of my head that's like we definitely need to address. I have to do something about this somewhere.
And it's sad, but those are the kind of things that sometimes people don't even think about. You think about the things people consider the big things, you know, but things like that can really affect everybody. Well, many times people don't think about it.
Well, they don't think about it because it's not being talked about every day.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, I guarantee you, everyone who's running for city council right now, they're talking about crime because crime is the sexy thing to speak about.
Exactly. Yeah.
But hey, but these train things, if you live on East End, those train things affect you.
We worked there. We used to have to go across one on Telephone Road every day, where the train park for an hour and a half, and you can't get to school on time.
And then it's like they run in order like the most worst
inopportune times.
Like
when you're trying to get to school.
Exactly. Trying to get to school, trying to get to work, name it.
Lloyd Ford, when you look in your area of District D, tell me what do you feel are the three most immediate things that you would try to tackle as that representative from that area?
To be honest, it'll be economics and opportunity,
Okay.
increasing the businesses, increasing opportunity for, we only receive, Rodney Ellis had a study, we only receive about 0.5% of the contracts, Black people here in the city of Houston.
Okay.
Also,
and there are qualified Black
oh,
companies.
definitely.
Yeah.
They would use that narrative.
Are they making the bids?
To be honest, a lot of them,
They don't know about the process.
they know about the process. We have thousands of businesses that's already inside of Hire Houston First. We already know these different businesses' names. The difference is a lot of people just don't get the opportunities, and they use the same people for contracts all the time.
Okay,
they try to use a thing called capacity. Do you have the capacity?
Right.
But we know so many
That's the way to
companies.
weed out.
Exactly.
Yes.
But we know a lot of companies that have zero equipment that get contracts, and then they sub it off to other people that have the capacity.
Gotcha.
So that is not an issue when we talk about it. Yeah, you can do what you want when it's your contract.
Yeah, and you can use little buzzwords like that, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Loopholes.
Yeah,
for sure.
To very strategically discriminate if you want to. So we've got economics. What else?
We got one of our categories that's not normal that we used to do is called empowering the people. We deal with all the civic clubs, all the super neighborhoods. In my area, as far as Sunnyside, South Park, and all that, we don't have not one super neighborhood that is active. We're working on that right now.
Explain to us what a super neighborhood is.
So in Sunnyside, South Park, we have all of them on inactive.
No, because
Sunnyside, South Park, Crestmont, and also Minitex.
No, okay.
Are all inactive. I know because I'm at the
Blue Ridge and Sugar Valley. It has a very active civic club.
But
it's not a super neighborhood. That is a civic club.
Yeah.
They civic clubs. See, civic clubs. We have about 40 something civic clubs within our area. Blue Ridge, Sugar Valley, Reedwood. They all have combined 3 civic clubs into one.
Wow.
So I go to theirs all the time. I know over there off airport.
And explain
So
to us what the difference is.
So the difference is civic neighborhoods, civic clubs are really super neighborhoods are mainly was an entity created by the city.
Okay.
It can get its own budget, but it's just a bigger way to have a voice of things that's going on in your community because they have something else called a super neighborhood alliance.
And what it entails a super neighborhood? Do you have to have so many members? Do you have to cover a certain amount of square miles?
They already have a distinctive area. Every area is already cut out by the city of Houston.
Okay.
But what they do is you do have a distinctive it have to be all of your brokers, your churches, your businesses of the area, your residents. It has to have a makeup of all these different components of stakeholders within your community.
Gotcha.
Have its own bylaws, have its own entity that it deals with. And those are the ones, don't get me wrong, the ones in Third Ward, they are active and still going. How much say these super neighborhoods and stuff have, that's a whole nother conversation.
Okay.
When we talk about power, but that's a reason why one of our categories is called empowering the people.
Right.
We are going to give the super neighborhood, not super neighborhoods, but civic clubs a budget where they can operate. A lot of the ones in Third Ward and some of the affluent areas, they can spend $1,000 on signs to show people and tell people this is what the meetings are. But the ones in La Salette, the ones in Sunnyside Civic Club, and they the ones that don't have a budget. And one of our programs that we've been having for over 4 years, we own our own credit card systems. We redirect the fees back towards the community. Sunnyside Civic Club, guess what? We build a website, we pay for it. La Salette over there off OST in Yellowstone, we build a website, we pay for it. And we do the same thing for Shape. We do the same thing for a lot of other businesses and nonprofits and people that's acting within our area. We think it's important that we build a website so people will be able to identify them when they're looking for issues. And that's just a small part.
That is.
But your roadblock is going to be how many people we can get active. We have over 124,000 registered voters in our area. Only about 25,000 actually vote.
Now that's the thing. That's the thing that is going to be
that's
the key to making a difference. The key to making a difference. And I'm going to tell you, gentlemen, something. And I've said this before. Sure. You know, I've said this. It's not going to be shaking that same old tree of those ones who've been on the voter registration roll for the last 25 years and they just don't get out there. It's going to be about getting to those, like you've been doing,
for sure,
and I'm sure you're doing in your area. Getting out there and getting those new people registered, getting them excited.
It's more to just getting them registered to vote.
Educating them.
Actually educating them on the process of the system. Because
that's right.
When you were running, that was one of the biggest things that I took away from the campaign more than anything was that a lot of people did not understand the voting process.
Absolutely.
They did not understand, what a lot of people didn't even understand what you were running for. Which and I thought that was like, and I came in with a night the naivety, I guess. Yeah. I just assumed
that everyone knew.
Know.
That people knew. Yeah. Like, you live in the United States, you know how your government is supposed to work.
And you can't even fault people for that.
Don't.
Because it's really a covert, concerted effort for people not to really know how that system works.
Right. Yes. So I found that to be, and I don't know if you guys have run into that as you are running. But I'm finding out that, or I found out rather, that a lot of people just did not understand. They don't understand what city council people do. They don't understand what state representatives do. They don't understand what the U.S. Congress does. They don't understand what the state senator does and the federal senator. They don't understand any of that process. So when you tell them to go vote and put their name on a piece of paper, it's like, oh, okay.
Well, to be honest, I was about to say, I explain it in layman's terms, and when I say that, I make it where it hits people's pockets. When I tell people, what do the city council do? I talk about the TERS. TERS use your business taxes and redirect it back towards the community. And I let people know, you don't vote for these people that reallocate these funds. These people are selected, not elected, and they're selected by your city council people. Yeah. So when you wonder where the money's being spent, why you can't hold anybody accountable, because it's in the hands of somebody that wasn't elected by you, but selected by the person that you so-called elected.
Yeah. So you need to know literally where that buck stops.
Yeah.
Yes, John.
I'm going one step further with that, though, too. One thing that I'm realizing is that
slide in a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. One thing I'm realizing, too, is that I'm seeing people are tired of career politics. Well, not career politics, career candidates, I'll say. They're tired of people. Well, one guy told me one time, said, look, I'm tired of talking to people whose LinkedIn profile has professional candidate as their occupation. Yeah. Because they run for any and everything that comes up. It's like, okay, you again, they use the same old buzzwords, same old jargon, same old speech every single time. People are sick of that stuff.
And John, sometimes you don't see them until it's time for an election. And you wonder, to me, I look at this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Where am I seeing you out in the community? I want to see you out there doing something. Like for somebody like Lloyd, before he ever even decided to run, Lloyd was out there. He was out there doing it, walking through these neighborhoods, getting people involved, letting people know that they need to be part of the process, trying to get people registered before he even decided to. And
one thing that I also pushed as well, like when I was running, several different capacities with my fraternity and stuff. For example, we did programs such as.
And what fraternity is that?
Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated.
Okay.
Awesome. Morgan State, 1963. Just going to throw that out there. But
come on now.
What I say about that is that one of the programs that we did was actually educating people on the grand jury process. Say for example, if you get arrested and go case whatnot, having explained to them why you have to sit on jury duty, or something else that we did was that's a program we did with a group called National Window of Achievement. It was called No More, basically talking about domestic abuse and sexual assault, fighting that. And then finally, another thing we talked about as well was that we talked about not just voting, but also knowing who elected officials were. A lot of people who I spoke to prior to this race getting started, a lot of them people didn't even know who their state representatives were.
Of course,
they didn't know who their city council members were. And then here's the thing about this too, though: it's not just voting for the election. Mm-hmm. The business takes place after they get elected.
Absolutely.
I've always said
that. And you got to go to their offices. Go to their town halls.
That's right.
You got to hold them accountable.
When you have some of these things that are going on in Austin right now, how many of these people are actually encouraging their folks to drive to Austin and testify about some of these bills that are coming across?
Exactly. I'm a teacher. I know exactly what's going on here in Houston. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of things that are in the news right now that are affecting teachers.
And I've been up and down the road from Austin talking.
Yes, every time something's going on, Rebecca is there.
I've talked to congressmen, I've talked to senators. I even went in people who offices were not favorable to me at all. What's in my concern?
But that's okay because they too work for you.
Exactly.
That's right.
So that's the point that I'm trying to make. At some point, and I'm saying this to both of y'all because I do believe both of you guys will win your seats. So that's something you guys need to look into. Seriously, get in the public education. I mean, I know y'all are gonna have 1,000 things to do when it comes to the city of Houston.
Yeah.
Nah,
But make this a priority, please.
that is a priority. Now,
And-
a portion of them on my website, you see it says empowering the people is actually a category of something that's
at
what
your
we doing.
store and at Lloyd's store, at least once a week, he had his store. Part of what his store represented was a hub for the people. It was the little mecca that people could come to if they had discussions that they needed to have, if they needed to be able to address an elected official, if they needed to be able to disseminate information. He had a certain part of that store, and they would sit those chairs out there, and people would come in there and be able to do that. And people need this kind of thing. So if you are at also at large, elected, those are the kind of things that I think work well. Let me ask you gentlemen something.
Sure.
Right now in our city and state, we see the political climate the most adversarial and divided that it's ever been. Do you two believe that it's realistic that lawmakers will find a way to come together to address the most pressing issues in our city and state, or is this just wishful thinking? Now, you all are a new generation. You're a new breed.
Yes.
I'm going to say, I think in many ways, we need to turn the clock backwards a little bit when we, as different, who may have sat on different sides of the aisle, knew that the way to get things done is not to take your ball and go to a corner and cross your arms. It's to come into that table and lock that door, and you don't come out of there until y'all come up with some decisions.
Okay, let me say it like this though too, right? Let me say this. To answer your question, is what you think it is possible? I think it's a little bit of both. Okay. And see, I say that because, and thanks for being that to exist, by the way, about me and Lloyd both winning our seats.
Oh,
so now check this out. Now, right about now, if people don't know this, me and Lloyd are on opposite sides of the aisle right now.
Yeah.
Both of us are.
Yeah.
And say, for example, both of us are on city council.
Yeah.
And me and Lloyd are having a shouting match about something.
Okay.
Loud, it's going on like it's all over the news. It's on the Isaiah Factor. Right. It's on every single thing you can think of. It's right there. I just have one very simple question, and no, me and Lloyd would not do that because I've been known Lloyd for a little bit, and I can say we're friends for the most part.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, here's how I answer that question though: who benefits from that?
Exactly.
Who benefits from that?
That's right.
And here's the reason why I bring that up is because if that happens, right?
Yeah.
Sure enough, someone's going to send out a fundraising mailer about it, saying, you know what, you saw what happened.
Right.
Make sure you donate to so and so's next campaign.
Yeah.
Make sure you give them someone's next pack. Make sure you do those other things right here. And it's like, who doesn't benefit? The people don't benefit from that.
That's right. That's
right. It's like it's really unfortunate.
And nothing gets done, John.
Nothing gets done because it's more about scoring cheap partisan points today. City council is not partisan, but we know.
I've been telling people all the time.
It's never nonpartisan.
That's why I wanted to bring that point up.
Like the Supreme Court. It's not supposed to be partisan,
city
but
council is not partisan. People from different sides of the aisle make up that body.
Yes.
And the thing is, I hate to say it like this, but with the old guard, sometimes the way that the old guard can do this sometimes is that they will cross their arms and puff up their cheeks and try to wait it out.
But
now, I will say in certain situations.
In certain situations,
you almost have to. In certain situations, when and the reason I say that,
but at some point,
let me finish.
Go ahead.
In certain situations, I said that in certain situations, that's almost kind of a given. Because if I know that there's something that is going to be directly affecting my community in a negative way, and you refuse to come to the table and let's talk about this.
Well, that's the whole thing, coming to the table.
Right. But you have some people on both sides of the aisle. I'm not saying this, that will absolutely refuse not to speak.
And that's the point that I'm making. Here's the thing. We got to figure out, like I said, when you have to come to a decision, sometimes that's a difficult decision, gentlemen, and you'll have this in front of you. You have to come to that table knowing that both of you may not get everything you want. Okay,
that's what governance is.
That's
You're not going to get everything you want.
That's right. And since I'm a U.S. history teacher, since the very beginning of time of our system, when we had the Federalists and the Anti-Federalists, part of that reason that they did not come out of that convention hall in Philadelphia was because they locked that door until they came to some compromise.
But I'm gonna say this was gonna be important with with the status that we in right now.
Yes.
Is right now, they passing something where at first, traditionally this has been a heavy mayor state. I mean, a heavy mayor city where nobody could put anything on the agenda except for the mayor.
That's right.
But now things have changed where now 3 city councilmen could get together and put something on the agenda.
That's great.
And then it takes only 9 votes to pass. And this way is going to be important because when we need to get something passed and it's for the betterment of the people, guess what? Now we can really go and say, hey, it didn't pass because your city council person didn't want this for what you're trying to do. And now we can go,
but it got on the agenda
for sure.
That's
but
right.
What now we'll be able to do is, and what I'm willing to do is, I'm not here to make friends.
Right.
So when we talking about doing what we need to do, guess what? I will go to your community and let them know they're not getting this because of you. This is something that we proposed and it didn't pass because your city councilman didn't want it. Not that the mayor didn't want it, not because it couldn't get put on the agenda, but because your city councilman voted against it. And now we can really advocate for the issues and what things we need to put on there.
There's nothing wrong with that because you got to say what you mean and mean what you say, and even stand behind some decisions that may not be the most popular decisions.
Correct.
And that's I'm glad to hear both. Go ahead.
But what I also hope that you're telling your future constituents too, and making this clear to them that they're not going to get everything that they want.
Right. Yeah.
Because this
every
is
time,
what happens.
Every time.
And this is why young people, I feel like a lot of times just I don't want to have nothing to do with the political situation because
it never happens.
They candidates go in making all of these promises that they do not have the ability
or the authority
to come through.
Right.
But you know what? They don't speak on it though. They don't speak and say it's easy. It's easy enough to say when I can't get something done in my district. Guess what? We already gonna be having monthly community meetings throughout my district. So guess what? Now I can come to you. This is not getting done, and this is why. And right now, in our districts, we're so reactive instead of proactive.
That's true.
So everything that we don't like, we're being reactive to it. So now we need to go fight against it because we think it's the shoe is on the other foot. We don't know what's going on. But when our people don't have to be reactive and you already know it's coming, and guess what? We have already prepared you that this is what it's going to be. This is what we're not going to get. And then we can let people know. But it's just a surprise. Everything that happens in 3rd Ward, District D, that people are uprising about, is because they're being reactive instead of proactive as far as our elected officials not telling them this is what's coming down the pipeline. And it may have been even before them. But that's something that they can go say, hey, this was already put in the work 4 years before me in the capital improvement plan. This is what's going down. I didn't have a say on this.
That's right.
Is this something that y'all like or not?
Because
they don't do that.
Because there was a bill, and I'm now going to school because I know y'all don't have nothing to do with it, but I'm going to school board now.
I know you have nothing to do with it.
Because you already know where I was going.
Here we go.
So there was a bill that was put on the floor in 2019 by us, and this was on my side of the aisle. It was put on the floor and voted on, and now we have the mess that we have right now because of a bill that was put on the floor in Austin. And now, and I'm just, God, it sickens me every time I think about. Right, it sickens me every time I think about it. But based off what you said, because it was voted upon and it wasn't explained clearly. Now we are in a situation in Houston in a certain district, feeling the repercussion because of a bill that was not explained, that was not told, and that was voted upon by other people on one side of the aisle. So, I mean, I totally get what you're saying because now we're dealing with, unfortunately, we're all dealing with the repercussions of that.
And if I could go further with that, though, too, the reason why people make these things is because people want to get elected. Of course, people make all kind of promises, stuff like that, because I hear people talking about something. Okay, well, I'm going to vote to do this. So, okay, you're just one vote out of 12. You know,
I know.
You know, it's like people,
and they don't explain that. They don't explain that. And the thing about it is, when you, I think it's so important that there is transparency when it comes to elected officials, because sometimes you may, in your heart of heart, want to do something, but you don't have either the capacity by yourself to do that, or that's not within in the realm of what your responsibilities are, that you can do that.
So then say that. That's my thing.
Yes.
And so let's about the house, because you mentioned the bill in 2019. If it's the bill, I think it is, about the takeover. Okay, here's something about that takeover too that people are not going to tell you. I'll say it for you. If people won't say it for you, I'll say it for you. The bill that we're talking about was House Bill 1842. It was sponsored by State Rep Harold Dutton in 2015.
Right.
Now, here's the thing, though. I actually read an op-ed giving his rationale for that bill. He wasn't wrong. Because here's the reason why I said he wasn't wrong. Because of the fact that it's like, happening in this school and then also other schools too, they are putting teachers in the classroom that were not certified.
Right.
You not have certified teachers providing quality education for that. And then something else people won't tell you also, failing schools are good for business. Here's what I mean by that, right? It's used to write grants too. Here's what that. Okay, say for example, these failing schools, they get this, it's like reactivation plan, stuff like that. How many people's hands are in the pot and they're getting eaten up by something called administrative fees that are not going to that school? Now, here's the thing that the people won't tell you also.
And the millions in grants.
Exactly. Exactly. Now, fast forward to this year. The takeover probably should have happened a couple of years ago, but it was held up in the courts. Now, this is the other part as well. You have these public officials, my mistake, public officials who look like us, talking about how bad this takeover is, but they're the exact same ones that voted for this bill in 2015.
Well, you know what, John? Let me say this. Let me say this because
I know,
but that's okay. But you know, that's something that people want to hear about right now because it's very much a real time issue. I am a person who is in education. I won't say where I work, but I am in education, and I think I've been in education for 17 years right here in the city of Houston. I won't say if I work for a private school or public school or whatever, but I've been right here. I can tell you this. I think everyone out there in education knew that something had to give.
Yes.
Okay. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, you cannot see continued failure without something given. However, it is the way that things are handled that is going to make a huge difference in the way it is perceived by people. And when it's handled in a certain way that does not seem like it is transparent or equitable, then you're going to have a lot. You can be feeding someone the exact same soup, but when you cover the pot and you feed it to them, they're not going to accept it the same way that if you take the top off of the pot and let them see what they're eating. It's the transparency aspect that most people have an issue with. And in that transparency aspect, if you truly look at people as professionals, the professionals that they are, then you have to step back and say, I'm going to put this on the table for you and let you know exactly what this is. And I'm going to give you the respect of saying whether you want to be a part of this or not.
Now, here's the thing about
that,
though,
the
too.
thing.
Here's the thing about this, though, also. We had a few state reps who admitted that they didn't read the bill. They just voted for it anyway.
You know it's
but because
that's crazy that you would vote anything that you don't read on.
It was one of their colleagues.
Because it was one of their colleagues. And they figured that they could trust.
That's right.
Because
my daddy first name was trust but verify.
I understand.
I don't trust nobody that much.
Right, but I understand. And I also get it. I'm thinking if we're coming, and I understand the logic behind it, because if we're representing the same type of neighborhoods, and I'm putting bills on the floor, and I'm passionate about this neighborhood. We're all passionate about these neighborhoods that we serve, and it's a legitimate passion. If you say, well, hey, I have a bill that is going to help the schools or help the businesses or whatever, because we serve these same capacities and serving in these same neighborhoods, I'm going to trust, and I get what you're saying, but I'm going to trust that you are going to do right because of the communities that we serve.
And I feel you, and I say that's not enough for anybody. And I say I got friends, I got people that ran for state rep before, and the first thing I asked, I say, you want to replace these people? Who is on your bill writing team? And they didn't have a person, and I said that's a problem.
Yes, it is.
And so I got people that know me that would never ask for my endorsement or for my help because that comes with accountability, that's what we have to keep. That's where we got to hold people accountable. I don't care if my mama wrote the bill. I'm gonna read it.
Yes,
absolutely.
Before I sign anything, and that's the type of accountability. And I hope that anything that I write, that other people go through with a fine tooth comb.
It's a lesson learned now,
for sure.
Yeah. But I understand the logic behind it because we serve these same type of communities. And I know you're not going to hurt Well, in my mind, I'm thinking.
Yes.
That's why let me switch
Right,
that.
right,
In my
exactly.
mind, I'm thinking
You're not going to do something to hurt me.
You
Yeah.
hurt me
Come
or
on,
hurt the communities that we serve. It's not an all man situation.
Right,
if you
right.
think if we riding on the same team, I don't expect you to backstab.
But this
For
also,
sure. You're right.
but this also goes to what Lloyd said also about reactive being versus being proactive.
Right.
And here's the thing as well about this too. Some people pass something because in their minds it's never going to come to fruition. They never expected this to take place.
That's right.
In fact, this bill was so bad. You had
I
2017,
knew it was coming.
2019, and 2021. If you want to fix it, you had 3 sessions do something about it.
Yeah.
And you did nothing. Now it's like, oh my God.
Well,
this is wrong.
but that was because they were also
say-
dependent on the courts.
But let me say this.
That's why.
Let me say this to Lloyd. Back in, I remember when this was when the buzz was really really heavy about this. I was at a school that was reconstituted back in 2006.
Right.
Okay, in 2010, reconstituted in 2010, and back then. It was reconstituted because it had been a failing school, but the school had been brought up to a passing level. Then they were advancing, and that was on the horizon then.
Right.
But what we can't do, and I think that this entire situation that's going on in Houston right now is a cautionary tale that people from around the state need to pay attention to.
Very much so.
Because when you have a lot of different ways to go about trying to fix something or trying to arrest a problem before it gets worse and work on making it better, and you got years to do that, you can't just keep kicking the can down the road.
For sure.
Now, with that, go ahead, Lloyd.
No, I was just about to say somebody asked something about what bills that we provide that we gonna write, and that's something that we don't write any bills as city council people.
No.
This is just us being an overview of state and what they're doing and not doing. We can still hold people accountable and put pressure on them.
Yeah, all the
now
bills
can we
tell them to call their state rep?
Now we can be a part of like ordinances and things that we write for our community for city council, but that's not necessarily bills. Yeah.
So and I feel what everybody is saying. I think, like you said, is learn. And then I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna get off this subject because
me too. I'm off of it too.
But there was a certain commissioner. I'm not gonna call his name, but I will say his title. It was a certain commissioner that
county commissioner.
No.
What commissioner?
Education commissioner.
Oh, okay.
That said in the Houston Chronicle, and I quote: "Houston, we are a staple in Houston now."
Okay.
Meaning, what we do here in Houston, we gonna reverberate.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be reproduced.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So he was like, we are what do you say? We are planted firmly in the city of Houston. So all of those other districts that think, oh, that can't happen to us, that can't happen to us.
You've been put on notice.
You have been put on notice. And we did it to the largest.
But we must keep this in mind. And this has nothing to do, this is not from a partisan perspective, because there are going to be people on both sides of the aisles who you can raise an eyebrow at, okay? However, be very careful with who you are voting for and who you are putting in the place to make decisions for you. Make sure you read their track record. Look at the kinds of things they've done in the past and look at what their belief system is and see if that aligns with yours. Right. And if it aligns with yours, that's who you go with. I don't care what side of the aisle they're on. I'll be the first one to say, when I go in to vote, and I told you this before, and we've had this discussion, I never go in and push a straight ticket. I want to look through each person, and it may take me an additional 10 minutes.
They eliminated that now, so
exactly.
Well, yeah, you don't have
exactly. But I would say no. I'm just not going to do that because I'm not a lemming. I'm not going to run off the cliff because everybody else is running off the cliff. I'm going to look and see who's doing something. And if it's a person that I believe in, I'm going to vote for a person that I believe in.
It was easy for me because, like I said, I do research on all these people before
Exactly.
But I mean, you got to understand one of the last elections, it was 147 things open.
I do research on all
I did.
I ain't gonna lie. I only voted for about 10. I only voted for about 10 or 15 people, so I don't vote for all 147. You gotta earn my vote.
I voted for all of them.
Wait. So, and not only did I do research, I put together information for friends of mine.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is what this person, like, I had a whole op-ed piece. My homegirl was like, you need to go ahead and just do this for a living.
Yes.
Gentlemen, let me throw this at you because we're quickly running out of time. But both of you have decided to pick up the torch of civic responsibility and throw your hats into the ring of service in a very real way with your run for city council from your respective areas or at large. Why do you believe that the time is now for someone like you to make a difference? Start with John.
Well, this is my first time running for public office. And the advantage I have is that I've seen people, as I mentioned earlier, I've mentioned the career candidates. I mentioned the people who run for everything that comes up, everything that there's your name there. They come there, they're running for something.
Yeah.
I see people cut side deals. Say, you get out of this race, we'll put you into this race. And
Yeah.
you'll be taken care of.
Yeah.
I said that out loud. I'm sorry, but yeah,
I've heard that. Mm-hmm.
But the one thing I will say is that the time is now because people are really, really tired of the same thing over and over again.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I'm told is that people say, you know what? I'm tired of seeing the same names all the time. I'm tired of seeing the same faces. I'm tired of seeing the same stuff. And then it's like, now watch this though, right? The thing is, because it's my first time doing this, some people say, hey, well, we don't know anything about this guy. I said, is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
That means that I haven't gone out there saying a bunch of crazy stuff.
That's right.
All the time. I'm not.
They don't have any sound bites on you.
But one thing I will say, though, is that one thing's important that you have to build alliances. You actually have to make friends and stuff.
Yes.
The first place I went to, well, actually, the first other candidate that I talked to when I first started running for office was Lloyd.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I said that because if I say, I saw him on Facebook and doing stuff. I said, okay, I see Lloyd is involved in the community. I see him involved.
Yes.
I said, okay, let me pick his brain to see what he knows. Let me see what is happening in his area, because at large encompasses the entire city.
That's right.
Republican and Democratic districts. So
That's
guess what? Let me go see what they need. And guess what? Well, do me and Lloyd have philosophical disagreements? Yes.
Yeah.
But there are some things that
y'all can agree upon.
Yeah, that we agree upon.
That's
My
right.
thing is, we're focused on that part.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
And we could disagree, but you don't have to be disagreeable at the same time.
And how can I'm gonna kind of capsulate that and just say it like this.
Sure.
Both of you have the same heart and desire to see the city do well.
Yes.
But your approach to coming to it is just a different way.
It's like a
So I'm gonna ask a question that wasn't on the question.
Let me let Lloyd answer that first. Lloyd, why is the time for Lloyd?
I would say this,
right
and like I say, I don't believe it's just the time, in politics and stuff like that. It's the right time for us.
Yes.
And I say we do things for a reason, season, and a purpose. And I'm done with the reason, the season. So everything we do is for a purpose.
Yeah.
And trust me, I didn't have people come to us like, why don't you just run for at-large seat? And I tell them we doing this for a reason.
That's right.
To serve a certain part, and how we gonna run District D is a reason why we want to give an example of how we just not doing this right, and we just not doing this for a political purpose. We just not doing this for a political seat. Matter of fact, like I said, we went and spoke to other community advocates that we thought would be great. We would support them just like we support my own campaign. We would have been polling for them. We would have been doing all this different stuff. When we realized that wasn't it, then guess what? Now we need to do this out of a sense of duty, instead of waiting another 4 years in order to get what we know, what we already didn't got.
Right.
We don't need another 4 years to know what this person is going to do in politics or not. We know what they're going to do and what they're not going to do.
Yeah.
correct.
Okay, so my question is, it wasn't on the questionnaire, but I'm
okay.
gonna put it out there.
That's okay.
I'm feeding off the energy.
Sure.
So, what do you think now, young elected officials? Because you guys are pretty young.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think now?
You're a new guard. There's a new guard.
Yeah. Young elected officials now, or young candidates, I should say, because y'all are not elected officials yet, but young candidates. What do you think now that they can bring to the arena that hasn't been brought for the last?
I like
20,
that question,
30
Rebecca.
years?
Yeah.
When you say you mean what do we bring or what do?
What do you bring?
I'm just
What's
new
new?
or
That
just
fresh
in
perspective.
general?
For one, new ideas, just new
Yes.
business acumen when it comes to doing what we need to do. Holding people accountable, already being involved, technological advances on what we can do, being ground to ground with the people that we know that's in the community. Like people don't know, like I took an assistant manager job at Family Dollar to know what's going on in our area.
Right.
I did that for 3 months. I was assistant manager, only got paid $11 an hour
But you got
So
you
it
got
wasn't
to
for the
converse
money,
with and
though.
know what was
Oh,
going
not
on.
at all.
Yeah.
Trust me, I could have worked there for a whole 30 days, 40 hours a week. It wouldn't have paid nothing for me.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, that made me realize how many big corporations are violating their community agreements, how many people are not living a livable wage, and the reason why we have what we have in our community. So a lot of our people, a lot of our people can't serve these people because they don't know these people.
Yeah.
So you can't serve the people that you don't know. And in order to be a leader, you have to be a servant first.
That's right.
And so we are servant leaders of what we do. And until you serve, I don't believe you can lead effectively.
Okay, what do you think young candidates can bring
Well,
to the conversation?
Okay, I'm 46, so hopefully that still qualifies me.
No,
That's
it
young.
is.
That's
Okay.
young, John. That's young.
No, but,
especially when the average age is 65. So
What?
wow. Okay.
Yeah, my opponents are 65 and 80.
right, exactly.
Okay, one thing I will say is that one of the advantages that I think, I guess a younger freshman mind candidate has is we come from a specific background. For example, I'm not a political science, I'm a scientist by trade. Actually, an environmental scientist is actually involved in education. That's a trade.
Yeah.
I've seen things from that field and from that perspective.
Right.
I'm not going to give political answers because I don't know what those are.
Exactly.
One thing I will say is that what I will speak about are things that I've experienced firsthand. These are things that I've learned by talking to different elected officials, by either here in Texas or in Florida, where I moved here from. Because one thing that I learned was that if you're going to talk to people, make sure you speak two languages. Make sure you speak Democrat and speak Republican.
That's right.
The one thing that we have, though, is that we have people who are so in their own silos. They're so like talking their own individual parties, their own individual groups and stuff. Like,
That's true.
How do you grow? How do you grow? I'm in the growth business. Once again, last time was branch.
Yes.
Branches are part of trees. Trees grow.
And you're in education.
Come on,
exactly.
I'll
take that. But yeah, I said, to answer your question, it's just about growing different people because you never ever know who you're going to meet. You never ever know who you could be a friend, who someone could help you, who someone that you got to serve, etc. It's. I think we do ourselves a disservice when we only want to talk to the choir.
Okay, let me. We are quickly and Kenji, I know we're over. Give us 2 minutes because these gentlemen have got to address this. Gentlemen, I know it doesn't have anything to do with the jurisdiction that you will help to oversee, but should Houston be allowed to oversee its own elections going forward, or do you believe that any election oversight should apply to all Texas counties universally and not just certain ones?
Okay.
Who wants to go first?
I'll take that.
Go ahead.
Okay.
I'll take that one first. Okay. Let me say this. I believe in track records.
Yes.
And the last couple of elections, let's be frank about this for a minute. Last couple of elections, whenever you have I guess like the chairman of both parties complaining about elections, maybe we might need to revisit a couple of things.
Okay. But would the way to do that be maybe on a trial basis for the next couple of elections? Maybe have someone to oversee that and then back off. What would be
somebody
fair?
who don't have stake in either party.
Exactly,
I would say this: I'm never big in the state or the city overtaking anything of what the people can do or not do. I'm never a fan of that.
That's right.
Do things need to change, be a little bit better? Of course, everything can always be better. I had the pleasure of meeting
and more clear, transparent. Yeah,
for sure. So I had a pleasure of actually meeting a gentleman that was over it, and he seemed like he had a pretty good grasp on what it is that needs to be done. I don't think that now reverting it back to the state or whatever, that would be the easiest thing to do or the right thing to do. What it is, we just need to have a person, like you say, there's not a part that's so-called nonpartisan, but it is, they still going to be have an opinion, but they need to know what the ultimate goal is, and that's to have ultimate free elections where we got, representation all the way across.
Right. Let's end with that though too, and see this is something happened as well, because like when the last elections that took place, actually when the previous elections that took place, there's a cutback in like voting because one of the polling locations was actually taking mail-in ballots about 4 days early than what they were supposed to. And see, here's where people have issues with this.
Yeah.
We talk about transparency.
Yeah.
If you're taking stuff early, right? And then, of course, we ask people about this. Okay, what's the big deal? It's only 4 days, stuff like
It's a
that.
big deal.
It's a very big deal
That's
because
right.
now this makes you ask, okay, what else is going on? And then if you believe that someone is trying to quote unquote get you, why would you give them ammunition to come in?
Okay, and this is where I'm glad you brought that point up. And this is where my intake was. These laws that we're reading straight up, they were not clear to anybody.
Yeah.
You had lawyers. Trained lawyers who couldn't decipher, and I believe to my soul, this is Rebecca 101 that was done on purpose. But you have lawyers who couldn't decipher those election laws. So it was the whole process was just not
some of them
clear.
Were very vague.
Were very vague. And then lawyers are trying to pull out the jargon and say, okay, well, you can do this. You had one set of lawyers say, well, no, you can't do that. It was chaotic to begin with. The bills were chaotic to begin with. To me,
here's the thing. Wherever, and maybe this is difficult to do, I don't think that anyone, anywhere, in any precinct needs to have a different set of rules than anybody at any other precinct. It needs to be exactly the same all across the board. Mm-hmm. And if there is someone who is overseeing this one, a nonpartisan party, or one person from each party who is placed there at each of those precincts to oversee it, let that happen.
And let me say this also. And so this is something that we talked about a lot, like when it came to election things as well. One thing that I was basically begging people to do, I was begging people to be election judges, be election clerks, because so much onus, we put so much onus on going to the polls to vote.
Yeah.
How many people actually speak about actually working their elections in their areas?
I've worked them.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. One thing we talked about is, like, for example, some folks are upset about 24-hour voting stuff. As someone who's been an election judge several times.
Yes.
And actually having the manpower to actually work those 24-hour locations.
I bet that's almost impossible.
Yeah. It is impossible. So a lot of people say, well, it's racism. No. You didn't have the bodies to work them. But see, people don't want to talk about that.
And also, here's the thing. I believe that we needed to have special provisions during a time when we had a pandemic.
Sure.
We needed to have special provisions, but as those times change and we go back to a normal situation, we've got to revert back to a position of normalcy, where it's going to be equitable everywhere for everyone.
And
now that's just right,
and that's what did not happen.
Yeah,
like I said, I've sat in the meeting. I sat in the Harris County meetings on Zoom and everything else, and that was not happening. People were so confused. I mean, right down to where people were going to go vote was confusing. People got sent back to their polling location.
Yeah, that needs to be
clarified. I know a couple of people that was all over town trying to find a polling location.
Now it should be open where you can vote at any polling location.
And I believe that should be the way all across the state.
Yeah. But that's also a county, because right now people talk about what's happening here in the city of Houston. So the county handles that. Because a lot of people put that. A lot of people say, okay, well, the government said, no. The county's in charge here of voting locations. They got to they got problems. Take it up with the county, because they're the ones who are actually doing this. Yeah, take it up with them.
Well, gentlemen, let me ask you something. If we have people who are watching, and I am so sorry I did not get to really address any of these comments, and these comments were numerous. We have Paulette. Oh my gosh. We've got Lakedra. Hey, Lakedra, thank you for joining in. Yes, we've got Candace. Hey, Candace, you're always there. We got Donnie. Hey, Donnie.
Oh, there is one comment by Miss
Ford, my church member.
That I want to read. She said,
yes,
this is good information. I do hope both gentlemen will be successful in their political endeavors.
And she's a dyed-in-the-wool Democrat. That's right. Cool. That's right. You just want fair people there. Correct. You want fair people there.
So I think the consensus of the comment is that everybody is happy that we're bringing this information to light. Just bringing the information to light for these two gentlemen.
Absolutely. John, if there are people who would like to connect with you or to support you or to come out and volunteer in your campaign, how would they go about connecting with you?
Well, you can visit my website at www.johnbranchjr for CCHTX. That's JOHNBRANCHJRFORCCHTX.com. You could also reach me at John Branch Jr. at John Branch Jr. for CCHTX.com.
Okay.
I want to be the branch of government that you can trust.
Awesome.
And when you vote me in office, I'll be that branch in government that you can trust.
And the thing about it is, you got when people are talking to you, you got to try to have some discernment and look and see what you feel about their spirit. Mm-hmm. A lot of times, if you trust yourself to recognize that, you kind of know what to do.
For sure.
You know, trust your own gut with that. John, do you have any fundraising events coming up that people need to know about?
We have our next meet and greet coming up in a couple of weeks on the 20th. We're going to be at Stogie's on Westheimer.
And you're going to send us a flyer so we
can... Yes, we will.
Okay.
We'll have that. We also have some stuff coming up next month. We're actually talking about suicide prevention in our schools, too.
Awesome.
I'll definitely send
you send us a flyer.
Yes, I'll send you for that one, too. So, yeah, basically... Awesome. I can also say that I've been working with a group called Delete Blood Cancer, in which we're trying to get more of us registered to the National Bone Marrow Registry.
Absolutely.
So I've actually had 2 of those drafts so far. There'll be a 3rd one coming soon also. So once
and you'll share that information with us.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Lloyd, if people want to reach out to you or support you or to come to any of your fundraising events, because I know you got some coming up too, how can we go about doing that?
Well, you can always go to Lloyd Ford for Change. That's Lloyd Ford, the number 4, and then change. .com, or you can find us on Instagram, Ford Can't Lose. Type in Lloyd Ford on Facebook, Instagram, Google, and we'll pop up. And one of the things that we have a community meeting once a month with Creative Group Economics, our nonprofit. We've been having this meeting since 2017, every second Monday. We only miss maybe 2 months, and that's when COVID first happened. That March and April. Then after that, we was back at it.
You still got time?
Oh yeah, look, we got time. I make time, and we have this meeting every second Monday of the month. It's at Shape Community Center, 3815 Live Oak, from 7 to 8. We start on time, we leave on time. So if you come at 8:30, we gonna be done.
Okay.
So we tell people to come on time. This one is a special meeting because it's a little political meet and greet. We try to do once a year when we're doing something so they can come out and meet some of the candidates. We can talk more about politics because this meeting is more than just about politics. We talk about economics, businesses, all the things we do in the community, so on and so forth. But it's always geared towards solutions and actions.
Very good. Well, Lloyd Ford, John Branch Jr., I want to thank you, gentlemen, for coming in. And like I said, if it's anything that I like to do in our podcast, and Rebecca can back this up, we want to know the person. We don't want to know the politician, because I want to vote for the person that I feel has the heart for the job and for the people.
Yes.
And that's the bottom line. And that's what I told you. I said, John, we want to talk about you. We're not going to talk about a whole bunch of stuff. But people will, when they get to know you and they like you as a person, then they feel that they can trust you. And that's what it's all about.
For sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I hope that you really got some good insight to these 2 gentlemen. I think that they say what they mean and they mean what they say. And if you need to put some comments in there, we'll make sure that we get to all those comments. We'll make sure that we get their information, their contact information in the contacts, so that you can reach out to them if you need to. If you need for them to come out to any of your civic organizations, any of your clubs or organizations, fraternity organizations, do exactly what you need to do to reach out to them, because they can do it. This gentleman is at large, so he will represent the entire city of Houston. So
mini mayor,
yes, the mini mayor, John Branch, and Lloyd is right over in District D. He's in the most historic area of Houston. So reach out to these gentlemen, and we will do what we need to do to make sure we facilitate that. John Branch, Lloyd Ford, thanks so much, and Rebecca, as we say every week,
we can do it.
See you later.
Bye.
See y'all.